Hey, this is Patrick Hell of Opal University, here to present my fourth hand-in for procedural programming. Now I made this simple brick game. Let's see if it can run. Yep. Alright, so basically what we're seeing here is we have our score, currently 0. Depending on how many bricks are destroyed, it'll increase by 1 for each brick. We have balls remaining, and the balls will be lost for each time that the ball passes this rectangle that the player can control and moves down below the map. We have these two instructions as to what buttons are currently capable of moving our player's rectangle left and right. These will switch every time I lift the key. So let's see here. If I move a little bit to the left, it becomes A next time I gotta go left. And now I can't see. Let's see. M for right, E to go this way, N, Q, I, O, Q, K. Alright, so now if I want to position myself under this, and we can fire using space button, it will actually function as intended and start spinning a heck of a whole lot. Now there is this issue of this going back and forth, and actually it is going down, but at an increasingly slow pace. So if we just start this over to demonstrate that you actually can lose health, we can see here that if I launch it and move to the side with O, oh come on, it's coming down little by little, but it's decreasing in its downward project. Okay, one more time. Come on now. Let's see, firing, and there it is. Health lost. You can see it decreases by 1, and my score is 2. Brilliant. Now, quickly we'll take a look at the scene I've created here. Basically, it's all here except for the ball, which is only initiated when the game is initiated. It's only spawned when the game initiates, and I only have a prefab for it. I actually moved it from my hierarchy, so it's not present in the scene. And one other thing that's important to remember is that I have my kill box here. So basically every time that the ball passes the player's rectangle, it will move down to this, and upon colliding with it, it will lose 1 health for the game, and the ball will be despawned and a new one will be created right above the paddle of the player. Alright, code time. First off, 4 scripts in total: the ball script, player script, brick script, and killbox script. Now the majority of my coding is in the player script, so I'll go through that first, and the others are fairly short, so they will make more sense once this one's been rounded off. So let's get to it. I have all these variables that will make sense once I get down to it and using them, but for now they're just declared. And also noteworthy is this, or these two actually, arrays in which I manually took half of the keyboard's keys, the left half and the right half, defined by yours truly, and yeah, those will make sense later down. Just remember, half the keyboard is left here and the right side of the keyboard is here. At the starting of my program, I'll have the remaining balls text spawned GUI text and set it to be, no, actually here I just initiate it. Yeah, it'll spawn the text, but placing it will come lower, further down. Also spawn the ball, as mentioned. It's not here yet, not until the game is started. And I have these two values for my left and right. Now in the beginning, when I first made this, I actually just set this to being equal A and L for the right one, so you could start out by something that's fairly simple, the two outer, what we say, borders of your keyboard, if it's European, I'm assuming. But I figured it'd be more fun that from the get-go you have random values, or in this case random letters, to find exactly as the game is started. So I basically just took these functions that give me a random value or a random number from one of my arrays, and I set them to start right off the bat. More on that lower down. We have the add point, fairly simple, just gives 1 point to my value, and is used for the adding of the scoreboard points. I have my spawn ball, which basically says that I have my game object instantiated to, let's see, ball prefab. I have that out in the editor. And then I say the position is equal to a new vector. I have it spawn exactly on top of the player. Where can I see that? Ah, well, it's spawned right on top of the player, and then I set the position to be exactly on top of it. However, just a slightly bit above it, so it's not actually the ball being inside the rectangle that the player can control. Now, as for this now I gotta pronounce this right. Quaternion identity. I wanted to use it for instantiating the prefab of my ball out here, so that it could include rotation when the ball is moving around. But I never got around to getting the rotation to work. But this part worked, so it's work to be done, I guess. Later implementations. This one is also fairly straightforward, just decreases the health used for the balls remaining down here. And I have the setting of the visuals for balls remaining here by setting balls remaining.text, and then basically saying what I wanted to write. Now the positioning of this takes place out in the editor, as I used it. What did I use? I don't remember exactly, but I used the options menu to say that it could either be in the lower or upper or middle left or right side of the screen. I basically just set it to that. Yeah, well, that's about it. Moving on. Oops. These next values I wanted to try and create in code. So I set my function on GUI, and basically it creates the text stuff other than the balls remaining, such as the what button to click to move left and what button to click to move right, and also the score of how many bricks you've destroyed so far. Now what's important to remember about this is that the coordinates are upside down, if you will, for the y-axis, which means the 10, the 480, and the 480. This meaning that as these are dealing with pixels, x and y, the pixels start from the top of the screen and move down, while x still goes from left to right. So basically, if we look at this first one, this will be moved 10 pixels down from the top of the screen. So just to get the positioning not totally screwed up, remember that little fact. Set release key to a new value. Right. Here we go. We have our two functions here. Again, a little bit repetitive as I copy paste this part, but I mean, I will be this could be optimized, of course, but this is just what I set it to anyway. So we have the button swap left. So basically, I have the string left set to be my buttons left, meaning my array of buttons, and then I take the array, which will give me a float, but I make sure that it will give me an integer. So I say the random number that it's you have the random range, and then you go from the bottom or 0 position up to the length of the array, and then I make sure that this float that the random will produce is converted into an integer. Also, if you have this part arrayed at length, it might at rare occasions give you a value that's outside of the array, as if we say that we have an array of three places, that would be 0, 1, and 2. But if it's the position array dot length, it might actually at some points give me position 3. Therefore, I took the liberty of minusing this length by just a tad, just a tiny bit, so that it can never go outside of bounds of the actual array. So it could be, in my case, my example, 2.99999, but never actually hit 3 and then leave my array. This is the same thing for swap right. And these two then set they get the random position in my arrays and print out one of the random letters, which is also what I used up here for the initialization of the map. Now back to where we were at. Okay, in our update function, once per frame, I make sure that the player can move left, and I also make sure that the key for him moving left is swapped. So basically first we have the key input, and first off I tried writing get key down, and that did work, but it only moved it 1 unit per click, which was terrible, of course. So by getting get key, I could hold down the key until releasing it and then have it swap, but I'm getting ahead of myself. So first we have the get key, and I say string left, and then I have a transform, so the vector.left, time delta and player speed. Now it is important to use time delta, and the reason for it, I gotta be honest, I actually forgot at this point, but I just memorized it as being a crucial thing to remember. Pretty sure that's something to do with lag. Anyway, moving on. Player speed. It's basically giving the player the opportunity to move left. And whenever the key is then let go and key up is registered on the left movement, the button will be swapped from our button swap function up here. The same goes for the right and the swapping of the right. Again, a bit repetitive code, could be optimized, but whatever, it works. So, next we set the borders of the game, making sure that the, excuse me, making sure that the, are we still recording? Just making sure. Yes, we are. Great. Setting the borders of the game means that I basically want the player to be able to move up until the edge, as you can see out here, of the map, but not any further. So basically I'm saying that if the position is more than this value here, then it shouldn't be able to go further by saying transfer the position to vector. So basically if it goes further than this point that it's allowed to be on, then it will remain with this x value and can't increase or decrease, in this case increase, in this case decrease, x any further than this point, thereby creating the boundaries of the player. Else it would just fly out of the map and just go on to the right or left until they can't get any further. Let's see, next we have the attached ball. This is just a minor optimization because I had this basically for every time down here, and it started looking a little chaotic having this over and over. So basically I just wanted to shorten it down by saying ball rigid body, bam, bam, and then have that put in there to just shorten it down just a tiny bit. It's not a big deal, but it's something. Boom, boom, boom. Right. This is for, well, as it says up here, attaching the ball. This is the ball position for placing it right above the paddle. Again, as mentioned earlier, just above the paddle or just above the player's rectangle for use. And basically it stays there until the ball is launched. And if the input is space, which is out here, so I set to, it would usually be editor, project settings, input. Normally it would be jump, but I changed the name of it to just launch ball as it seemed more appropriate for the game. And whenever that is clicked, just assigned to the, I believe it was, oh wait, no, hang on, just want to make sure I didn't do anything wrong. Input is set to the positive button spacebar. So basically when the spacebar is pushed, we have this happening. And this is get down, so it only registers once. You can't hold it down by mistake. Also, this will prevent that from happening, but we'll get to that. Basically, I've set the ball whenever it's spawned on top of the player to ignore the physics of the game, of Unity, in order to allow it to, what would you say, without lagging, stick with the player moving left and right so it doesn't lag behind as much, because I experienced it doing that a lot. So by turning kinematic on, it ignores the physics and follows the player more fluently. And by turning this off again, the ball will then be, what would you say, enabled for the physics of the Unity universe again, and basically allowing it to hit the bricks and the sides of the game that I've created out here. And next we have the apply force, basically by the space button setting it out into the game. And lastly I set it to null, so that previously if this wasn't set to null, the spacebar could be clicked multiple times and adding more and more force to the actual ball, which would seem, well, I guess fun at some point, but for now let's just say you can only fire it off once. And lastly for this script we have the collision detect. First off, we have it for the this is for the ball hitting the player. So we set up our collision enter, collision call. Okay. This loops through the contact points and generates two contact. I had to write a comment for this because it's a little. Generates two contact points, one for the player and one for the ball. So basically, what this is overall, I'll just give a quick run through of it. Is depending on where the ball will hit the paddle, the ball will be given force in a certain direction. So basically, I think it's a demonstration would make this easier to understand. Let's see. I have to move M right as it starts. So if I click start and then see, as it hit my player here, it was given a force to move in this direction. Let's see how that's accomplished. First off, we have to have the contact between our we have to have the contact between our player, this collider, we're in the player script, and the collider, which is basically our box collision for the brick, or the sides for that matter, pardon. And then we have the player's contact point with the ball, which is basically we have the lateral motion, contact point minus transform position, setting the depending. This will then detect where on the actual player rectangle the ball hits, or the player is hit, if you will, and the ball contact point will then be given added force in the direction of the lateral motion, which is up here. So basically, the further from, if the ball hits exactly on the middle, as you can see in the game, it will go straight up. Whereas if it hits the player slightly to the side, either side, it will be shot towards that direction, or in the opposite. Yes, it will be shot in the opposite direction. Pardon. As demonstrated, you saw it happen. So that is, yeah, that's lateral damage basically. It's the spin direction that you can sort of use to get control of the actual game and the ball. Now we have the ball script. No, I guess it should start with Killbox actually. Yeah, let's start with Killbox. We don't use the start and update, but I've just gotten so used to having them there. I almost feel weird not to have them there, even though they don't have any big use right now. I haven't put anything into them anyway. We have the on trigger events. So basically another collider detection. No. Let's see. Linked ball script. Right. So basically this is for whenever the ball hits our kill box, we want it to start over. And this is accomplished by first we have to link to the ball script and checking the ball object to get a. You have to link to it in order to have the grip to get a hold of. This function here, the die function. And now if you go over here, we can see that if ball script is registered, we will go into we'll trigger the function within the ball script called die. And this is basically a collider set that if a kill box, the kill box down below our scene, hits anything else, hits any other object, that object will be triggering this effect. So theoretically, if I had my bricks falling from the top of my game and they hit the kill box, it would register a collision and the ball would actually die. So that would make the game a bit different, but actually sounds kind of cool. Brick script. Again, didn't use the start update function that much. We have a collision detection for the ball hitting the brick. Now, the collision, same collision detection as we used in the player script. However, this one isn't used to register a point as much as it is to destroy the object that is collided. So basically, we have this object being a game object for the script we're in. This object is destroyed, and we have to link to the player script to tell it to add 1 point using the previously mentioned add point function and giving it 1 point. And we have to link to the player script in order to reach this function, which is what we do here by saying GameObject.findPlayer and then get a component from player script. and going for the add point function, and then saying what we would like to give it as an input. And as we can see in the player script, it should take an input of an integer. Where did I put it? Add point, add point, add point. Ha! It takes an integer value and increments it by 1. Or, sorry, it takes the score and increments it by the value, which is 1. And what script? Ball script. Ray, ball script. Final one. Again, void start, void update. Meh. Alright, so we have the loss of the ball. So if the ball hits the sorry, kill box. No, we have the control. We have the check for if the ball is touching the kill box. That's done over here. This is basically telling the ball should die at some point by saying destroy this game object. Then we go in and link it to the player script to check for the check for the player object. Bum bum bum. Player script. Player script. Component. Player script. Hang on one sec. Alright, let's see here. It's basically just so that we have the game object, player object equals game object find. We need to find the player, and thereby we have to get the player script, get component. So basically this is just linking us, this script we're in, player ball script, to the player script so that we can access the spawn ball that is declared within the player script. Basically so that after this dies, you destroy the ball that you had, and you create a new one at its set coordinates that is explained in spawn ball. Yeah. That should be just about it. So, yeah. Hope you enjoyed. Alright. Oh, and also, oh, wait, no, hang on. Aha. Thought you were done, but no. Let's see here. The speed of the ball I actually set here, which is a minor thing because it's basically, I guess, we could actually see we can remove this, and because I give it some velocity, I give it some speed by just pushing space. Aha. So it doesn't actually seem to need that constant speed as I give it a kick in the butt when I click space anyway. So yeah, we can actually go ahead and remove that. Oh, well, you know. Alright. But other than that, we have the health set to 4, and seeing since the game instantly takes one ball and spawns it, inside the spawn ball function it's also minus health by 1, meaning that you will never get to see when the game is started that you actually have 4 health. You will only see that you have 1 ball on the game ready to go and 3 health remaining. And also we have the attached ball set to null, so that can't actually do the same thing. It's the same point as setting the attached ball, setting the launch ball to null so that you can't access it again once it's out there, and adding more and more force to it once it's already in play. And yeah, I actually think I'm done. So thanks for listening.